Carl Jung died in 1961. He never saw the internet, smartphones, or social media, but without even knowing it, he described every single mechanism behind an $8 billion industry, an industry where millions of people sell made-up versions of themselves to millions of people who pay for the illusion of closeness. He even described why you're watching this video right now, and why it makes you a little uncomfortable. You know someone who's subscribed to OnlyFans, or you're subscribed yourself, or you work there. A Swiss psychiatrist who died before the internet was invented explained to all three of you why you do what you do, and why you can't stop. Carl Jung introduced a concept that changed the way we understand the human mind. He called it the persona, a mask that every person creates for the outside world, not the kind of acting you see in movies, and not the kind of lying you see on TV. It's something subtler, and something every one of us has. At work, you're one person. With friends, you're another. And when you're alone, you know. Jung considered this normal and even necessary. But if you don't notice when that mask starts fusing with your skin, you forget where the role ends and where you actually begin. There are almost 5 million creators on OnlyFans right now. In the last reporting year, fans spent $7.2 billion on the platform. That's more than the GDP of 30 countries. And 76% of all the money on the platform goes to just 0.1% of models. The rest are millions of people who built a character for sale and live inside it for $131 a month. OnlyFans creators, let's call them that, construct an entire person. Her name, biography, communication style, the way she writes messages. All of it designed so the subscriber feels a connection to someone who doesn't exist. And unlike an actor who takes the mask off after filming, a creator lives inside her persona almost around the clock. She responds to messages as the character, posts stories as the character, makes decisions about how to look and where to go through the filter of how it'll affect the image. In his 1928 work, 2 Essays on Analytical Psychology, Jung gave the persona a definition that sounds like he was describing OnlyFans. The persona is a compromise between the individual and society about what one should appear to be. Jung saw this in his patients. He saw how the mask was chosen not by the person wearing it, but by the people looking at it. On OnlyFans, this process is algorithmic. The audience simply votes with money. If a certain type of photo brings in more tips, the creator shoots more of those photos. The same goes for private messaging, which is how top OnlyFans models generate 2/3 of their income. Jung worked with patients whose persona was shaped by an environment of dozens of people. An OnlyFans creator is shaped by a crowd of thousands, and that crowd gives instant feedback in dollars. Every message, photo, or video passes through one filter. Will they pay or won't they? Imagine every emotion you have being instantly evaluated in money. After a few months in that mode, you stop understanding which emotions are yours and which are product for sale. In that same work, Jung warned about specific consequences. No one can evaporate into thin air by identifying with their persona. There's a price to pay. A 2021 study by the Avery Center showed that 34% of OnlyFans creators reported anxiety, depression, and lowered self-esteem. In February 2023, Diana Dietz was found dead. She was in her 30s, but 5 million subscribers knew her as Coconut Kitty, a character she created using filters and editing. Small chin, huge eyes, a body like an anime character. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Dietz said she just wanted to create a fantasy, just a character. She called herself 24 for years and had been battling depression since childhood. And when the audience started suspecting the real person didn't look like the character, the threats and harassment began. The mask the crowd had sculpted for her became a prison she couldn't escape. But someone was ordering that mask and paying for it every month. Someone was writing in the chat, believing they were getting a real response. Jung described this side too, in the same work in the section he called The Shadow. If Jung is to be believed, the shadow is the part of the psyche that a person refuses to acknowledge as their own. Aggression, sexuality, selfishness, greed, everything that doesn't fit the persona we wear in public. The shadow doesn't disappear just because you ignore it. Jung believed it accumulates and eventually finds a way out, but in a distorted form. He was one of the first to apply this idea not just to individuals, but to entire cultures. In Civilization in Transition, the 10th volume of his collected works, Jung analyzed how societies collectively suppress what they find uncomfortable to acknowledge. His conclusion was simple. The longer a culture ignores its shadow, the more powerfully it returns. In 2019, OnlyFans fans spent $300 million. Now that number is approaching $8 billion a year. That's more than the entire annual salary fund of the NBA or the Premier League. And yet publicly, OnlyFans remains something taboo. In August 2021, under pressure from banks, OnlyFans announced it would ban explicit content. 6 days later, the platform reversed its decision. The banks that demanded pornography be removed realized themselves that without it, the platform would die, and with it, billions in transactions. Society tried to cut off its shadow, and within 6 days demanded it back. Jung described exactly this. When the shadow returns unacknowledged, it creates a split. A person lives in two realities at once, consuming in one, condemning in the other. Most men who use OnlyFans will never say it out loud. Millions of people pay for content they simultaneously watch and feel ashamed of watching. Creators earn money they hide from their families, an entire industry that refuses to acknowledge its own shadow. Carl Jung put it as a law. What you resist becomes stronger. But society's shadow isn't as dangerous as the shadow of a specific person who opens the app at 3 a.m. and writes a message to someone they'll never meet. And for this, he had a separate term. In his essay, Marriage as a Psychological Relationship, Jung described a mechanism he called the anima. Every man carries in his unconscious an image of the ideal woman. This image forms from childhood, starting with the mother, and absorbs everything a man associates with the feminine: softness, mystery, emotional closeness. Jung believed this image is unconscious and inherited. The problem begins when a man projects this inner image onto a real person, and starts falling in love not with her but with his own projection. And until he becomes aware of this, no genuine relationship is possible. OnlyFans is built on exactly this mechanism. A subscriber doesn't pay for photos or videos. All of that is available for free on dozens of other sites. Sophie Rain made $43 million in 2025, even though her content appears on pirate sites for free within 24 hours. But men pay her and other models for the illusion that someone knows them. Jung believed that a man who has projected his anima onto a woman genuinely believes he's found the one, and worst of all, that there's something real between them. One man spent $135,000 on OnlyFans while his wife was undergoing cancer treatment. It ended in bankruptcy and divorce. Others talk about maxed out credit cards, drained retirement funds, debts in the tens of thousands. And this is exactly where all three mechanisms we've covered come together. Everything Jung described, the persona, the shadow, the anima, he viewed as parts of a single process he considered the central purpose of human life. He called it individuation, the movement toward wholeness. Accept your mask, but don't fuse with it. Acknowledge your shadow rather than suppress it. Become aware of your projections rather than live inside them. In Psychological Types, published in 1921, Jung formulated this as a law of the psyche. A person only becomes themselves when they integrate all parts, both light and dark. Without this work, they remain dependent on external validation, unable to build either a real identity or real relationships. OnlyFans breaks this process from both sides simultaneously. The creator, instead of finding herself, merges with a mask sculpted by the crowd. The subscriber, instead of real relationships, lives inside a projection, spending thousands of dollars talking to his own fantasy. Society, instead of integrating its shadow, consumes it anonymously, and condemns it publicly. Jung said individuation is the hardest work in a person's life. It demands honesty, discomfort, and the willingness to see yourself as you truly are. OnlyFans offers a ready-made illusion instead. It's just a business that monetizes what Jung spent his life trying to cure.